Recently, many bloggers on mainland Chinese social media platforms have posted messages like, "I'm in my 40s and 30 of my classmates have died," or "I'm only 40 and 20 of my classmates have already died." The comments from mainland Chinese netizens are even more shocking. The blogger is 40 and 20 of his classmates have passed away. On July 29th, mainland Chinese Douyin blogger Reliable Ergu said in a video, "I'm only 40 and 20 of my classmates have already passed away. Brothers, cherish every day and be kind to everyone." The blogger is in his 40s and 30 of his classmates have passed away. On July 11th, blogger Gu Yue plus C Shi posted, "I'm in my 40s and 30 of my classmates have passed away." A voice can be heard sighing in this video, "What should I do? I'm so worried." The blogger is 43 and 20 of his classmates have passed away. On August 16th, blogger Renjian Wi-Fi posted, "I'm 43 and 20 of my classmates have already passed away." He wrote that one classmate had died the previous day. He was shocked when he first heard the news. How could someone die at only 45? His classmates were deeply moved. The blogger is 41 years old and several of his classmates have already passed away. On July 15th, blogger Wei Gei posted, "I'm 41 years old and several of my classmates have passed away. So eat, drink, and be happy every day." Some netizens responded, "Ever since the coronavirus invaded human lungs and caused a long-term outbreak, there is no distinction between old and young in the underworld. And those born in 2005 have already lost 2 or 3 classmates." The blogger is 42 years old and 17 of his classmates have already passed away. On July 10th, blogger Floating Needle Lee posted, "I'm 42 this year and 17 of my classmates have passed away." A Guangdong netizen responded, "I'm 34 this year and people around me have died one after another. My classmates are fine, but a few former colleagues have passed away. Among those born in 1991, 3 of my elementary school classmates have passed away." Many bloggers reported the deaths of numerous classmates or colleagues. One blogger posted, "I'm only 40 and 16 of my classmates have passed away, including 4 childhood friends from the same village." Another wrote, "I'm only 43 and 9 of my colleagues and friends have passed away." Another stated, "I'm only 35 and 8 of my classmates have passed away." The comments were shocking. A Guangdong netizen said, "There were 50 people in my class and 19 of them have already passed away." A Hunan netizen said, "I'm in my 50s now, and I know about 10 of my classmates who have passed away forever. We're already on the bus, so we should cherish life. I was born in 1975, and many of my peers have passed away, mostly men." A Sichuan netizen said, "I was born in 1974, and I had about 50 elementary school classmates. 8 of them have passed away in the past few years. This is absolutely true." A Liaoning netizen said, "I'm nearly 60 years old this year. Of my 12 close junior high school classmates, I'm the only one left." Several of their descendants have also passed away. A netizen from Shangshi said, "I'm 37 years old, and 6 of my classmates are already dead." A netizen from Jiangsu said, "It's actually quite normal. Don't judge me by the numbers. I'm a few years older than him. As far as I know, 3 of my elementary school classmates have died, 4 of my junior high classmates have died, 2 of my high school classmates have died, and 2 of my college classmates have died. These are all classmates, so that's 11 in total. There are definitely more unreported cases." Approximately 17.6% of those born in the 1990s have passed away, while about 7.5% of those born in the 2000s have passed away. On August 17th, mainland Chinese Douyin blogger, Later, posted a report stating that those born in the 1960s had approximately 217 million births, a current population of about 191 million, with around 18 million having passed away. Those born in the 1970s had about 224 million births, a current population of around 201 million, and approximately 22 million have passed away, accounting for about 9.8%. Those born in the 1980s had about 219 million births, a current population of roughly 210 million, and around 9 million have passed away, accounting for 4.9%. Those born in the 1990s had about 188 million births, a current population of about 155 million, and approximately 33 million have passed away, accounting for 17.6%. Those born in the 2000s had about 147 million births, a current population of around 136 million, and approximately 11 million have passed away, accounting for 7.5%. In response, blogger marketing account Speed Version posted a video questioning the claim. According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics of China, an analysis shows that the total number of deaths from 1990 to 2025 was only 3.5 million, far lower than the rumored 33 million. One netizen responded, "At least as far as I know, if 7 to 10 people die, only 1 to 3 are reported, and if 1 to 3 people die, none are reported. That's the reality." Funeral industry blogger. Too many young people to cremate. Every day, doctors in Beijing warn that heart attacks and strokes are hitting people at younger ages. Even those in their 20s and 30s are ending up in hospitals. One doctor blogger said, "This year, sudden deaths are happening more and more often." On July 25th, Douyin blogger Zibo Funeral Cemetery Old Liu revealed, "The crematoriums aren't receiving the elderly anymore. It's mostly people born in the 1980s and 1990s. Every night we handle sudden deaths, people who stayed up late, worked overtime, or collapsed from overwork. It could be anyone next. Sudden deaths aren't news anymore. They're daily reality." According to reports, over 760,000 people in China die suddenly from heart disease every year, not including other causes. A health survey also shows stroke mortality has more than doubled in both cities and rural areas over the past 2 decades. Official statistics remain limited, but the trend is clear. Younger lives are being cut short at alarming rates. Asthma cases surge in Shangshi. Cholera case reported in Jiangsu. Can a single thunderstorm cause hospitals to overflow with asthma patients? Starting at 11 p.m. on September 8th, emergency rooms at Shangshi Bethune Hospital and Tongji Shanxi Hospital saw a sudden surge, with nearly 400 patients treated that night. Around the same time, health officials also reported a case of cholera in Nantong, Jiangsu, sparking public concern. Patients suffer severe coughing and even coma. According to local residents, many people in Taiwan developed severe coughing and shortness of breath that night, with some even needing masks to sleep. Videos show long lines of patients and families in hospital emergency rooms, many wearing masks while waiting for treatment. One resident said her husband, who suffered from rhinitis, suddenly began coughing violently during the storm and struggled to breathe. On the way to the hospital, the driver revealed he had already taken several other passengers with the same symptoms, one of whom had fallen into a coma. Hospitals reported being overwhelmed. Doctors used loudspeakers to recommend temporary medication and asked some patients to return during the day for follow-up visits. Shangshi Medical University First Hospital alone received nearly 300 emergency cases after midnight. Local media explained that a brief thunderstorm triggered what's known as thunderstorm asthma. Strong winds lifted allergens such as pollen into the air, which then broke down into smaller particles after lightning strikes. Once inhaled, these particles can cause coughing, chest tightness, and difficulty breathing. Confirmed cholera case in Nantong. Separately, Nantong health authorities confirmed a cholera case on September 4th at the Erjia Farmers Market in Tongzhou District. The market was closed for cleaning and renovations. According to the World Health Organization, cholera is an acute intestinal infection spread through contaminated water or food. It can cause diarrhea, vomiting, and rapid dehydration. While there is no specific drug treatment, timely rehydration and electrolyte replacement are effective. Globally, cholera affects 1.3 to 4 million people each year, with tens of thousands of deaths. In China, cases usually peak between July and October in coastal areas such as Shanghai, Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu. As of August 2025, 12 confirmed cases have been reported nationwide. In conclusion, the recent surge of asthma cases in Shangshi and the reported cholera case in Jiangsu highlight the importance of public health awareness and preparedness. Thunderstorm asthma reminds us how quickly environmental factors can overwhelm hospitals, while cholera underscores the need for safe water, sanitation, and hygiene. To prevent such outbreaks, it is essential to strengthen healthcare response systems, improve early warning mechanisms, and encourage individuals to practice healthy habits such as drinking clean water, eating safely prepared food, and maintaining good personal hygiene. Only through combined efforts can the risks of sudden health crises be reduced.
Man-made disasters, the three Gorges Dam, and a nightmarish flood season. The summer of 2025 marks a dark chapter in China's history, as torrential rains transform central and southern provinces into vast expanses of water. Before the flood season even began, disaster struck, with 329 rivers exceeding danger levels by July 4th. But this is not merely nature's wrath. It is the fallout of human hubris, centered on the Three Gorges Dam, once touted by the CCP as an invincible feat of engineering. Completed in 2003 with promises of taming once-in-a-millennium floods, the dam has become a deadly liability. Officials were forced to open 11 spillways, releasing 44,000 cubic meters of water per second, enough to submerge Hangzhou's West Lake countless times. They called it a technical necessity, but locals whisper of man-made floods, prioritizing industrial hubs upstream while sacrificing rural downstream communities. Dr. Wang Weiluo, a hydraulic engineer involved in the project, has long warned that the Three Gorges Dam was designed not for flood control, but as a profit-driven hydropower machine, funneling wealth to coastal elites. The reservoir was kept dangerously high before the rainy season, eliminating safety buffers and triggering panic when heavy rains arrived. China's nearly 100,000 aging reservoirs, many poorly maintained, exacerbate the crisis, with sudden midnight water releases sweeping away villages without warning. The Three Gorges Dam itself is showing cracks. Beijing admits to minor shifts, but independent experts report deep fissures, a 30-fold increase in seismic activity, and even NASA confirming the dam's weight has altered Earth's rotation. To build it, 1.3 million people were displaced, 13 cities submerged, and cultural heritage erased, while profits flowed to Shanghai and Beijing. History repeats itself chillingly. The 1975 Banqiao Dam collapse killed 230,000 people, a tragedy hidden for decades. Now, if the Three Gorges Dam fails, due to mismanagement or natural disaster, the consequences could dwarf that catastrophe, potentially shaking the CCP's foundations. Michael Oslin of the Hoover Institution warns, if the dam collapses, so does the regime. On June 29th, heavy rains in Sichuan led to water releases from the Zipingpu Reservoir, flooding Chengdu. By July 3rd, entire residential areas were submerged. Beijing has deployed troops around the dam but remains silent on the true death toll, cloaked in heavy censorship. Economic collapse, ghost subways, and crushing debt. While rural areas drown, China's major cities face a silent economic crisis, epitomized by their once proud subway systems. In 2025, many urban rail lines have become ghost projects, with trains running empty and debts soaring to 4.7 trillion yuan, about $658 billion, double the debt of the collapsed Evergrande. Beijing's subway system loses 25.3 billion yuan annually, with operating costs triple the ticket revenue. Shenzhen reported a record 33.5 billion yuan loss in 2024, equivalent to 100 million yuan daily. The once booming railway plus real estate model has collapsed as the property market freezes, leaving desolate stations like Ningbo's Gangqiao station in the middle of rice fields, serving only a handful of passengers during peak hours. Overzealous security worsens the situation. A viral video from August 25th shows 3 police officers and a guard dog stationed at a Beijing subway car entrance, scanning QR codes and IDs for every passenger. In Shanghai, the stadium station is similarly fortified, turning subways into mobile prisons. Nationwide security costs reached 20.9 billion yuan in 2022, yet their effectiveness is questionable. One guard admitted 6 officers couldn't stop a determined threat. Amid the downturn, Shanghai's subway operator laid off 6,000 workers in August, offering meager compensation. Of 28 cities with subway systems, 26 report losses despite subsidies, draining local budgets and starving education and healthcare. The CCP conceals the debt's true scale by expanding projects, creating a financial black hole that ordinary citizens ultimately bear through taxes. Social chaos, street vendor scams, and rampant counterfeits. The economic crisis has spilled into society, where dreams of quick riches have turned into a nightmare of scams. TikTok is flooded with tales of street vendors earning 3,000 yuan daily selling fried eggs or oversized pork sandwiches. But behind the facade lies a pyramid scheme. Masters, like Hu from Anhui, with 740,000 followers, sell courses costing thousands of yuan, providing faulty carts and recipes. Victims, like a Hubei couple, earned mere tens of yuan after 20 days, far from the promised $300,000 a month. The secret? Hiring elderly actors for 50 yuan to fake crowds and posting videos of sold-out stalls. In reality, legal street vending requires food safety permits, but most operate illegally, risking confiscation and fines. Counterfeit goods further erode society, infiltrating every facet of life. Fake pork belly made from soy protein, ribs crafted from chicken, and seafood stuffed with plastic bags. The 2008 melamine-tainted milk scandal, which caused kidney stones in thousands of children, still haunts the nation. Gutter oil laced with carcinogens and traditional medicines like saffron made from dyed toilet paper persist. Even construction is fraudulent. Hollow wooden doors, tofu bricks that crumble, and foam walls that collapse. The counterfeit market, worth trillions of yuan, saw a 15% rise in complaints in 2024. Works like 9 Commentaries on the Communist Party blame the CCP for destroying traditional values, fostering atheism, and encouraging mutual harm. Without restoring morality, China's society risks sinking into chaos, with trust shattered. Political turmoil, military purges, and Xi Jinping's distrust. At the heart of the crisis lies the CCP's internal politics, where Xi Jinping's paranoia has sparked massive military purges. Since 2012, 14 of the 79 senior officers Xi appointed have been investigated or vanished, leaving the Central Military Commission with only 4 members, the highest vacancy rate since Mao's era. Xi Weihong, a close ally, disappeared after planning a Taiwan invasion. Corruption is rampant. Missiles filled with water instead of fuel, a nuclear submarine sinking near Wuhan in 2024, and a Coast Guard vessel colliding with an ally on August 11th. These incidents expose inadequate training and oversight, leading the world to question whether China's military is a paper tiger. Xi's wife, Peng Liyuan, rarely appears publicly, but at the SCO summit in Tianjin on August 31st, she stood by his side in a display of power. She welcomed Putin and Kim Jong-un, flanking him like guardians, to announce a global South alliance against the West. Putin brought a massive delegation, and Kim attended a Chinese military parade for the first time since 1959, reviving the China-Russia-North Korea axis. India's Modi attended but skipped the parade, maintaining distance. The SCO, touted as representing half the world's population, is a loose alliance riddled with contradictions. The CCP uses such events to mask domestic unrest, rewriting the history of the anti-Japanese war to bolster its legitimacy. Money laundering and international pressure, a nightmare for China's tycoons. The crisis extends globally, with the U.S. tightening scrutiny on money laundering linked to Chinese citizens. A U.S. Treasury report on August 28 revealed 137,653 suspicious transactions from 2021 to 2024, with Chinese crime syndicates laundering $312 billion for Mexican cartels through drugs, pig butchering scams, and human trafficking. Corrupt officials hide assets via cross-border deals. TD Bank was fined $3 billion in 2024 for handling $470 million in laundered funds. The Trump administration has vowed to rigorously vet Chinese clients moving large sums, imposing heavy fines on non-compliant banks. This strikes directly at Beijing, plunging Chinese tycoons, many tied to the CCP, into a nightmare as their wealth and secrets face exposure, hidden truths, and an uncertain future. China in 2025 is a portrait of comprehensive crisis. Man-made disasters from the Three Gorges Dam, economic collapse with crippling subway debts, social chaos driven by scams and counterfeits, political turmoil under military purges, and international pressure from money laundering crackdowns. The CCP conceals the truth, from flood victim counts to the scale of corruption, to maintain an illusion of stability, but the cracks are widening. The question is not whether the system will collapse, but when and how catastrophic it will be. The world watches, and China's people, caught between floods and fraud, wonder, who will protect them when the regime prioritizes power over lives?
Just picture this. In the heart of Shenzhen, China's so-called economic miracle, you walk into a massive shopping complex on a Sunday morning. It's past 11 a.m. and nearly every store is shut. Aside from a couple of tutoring centers, the entire place feels abandoned, as if the life has been drained out of it. One passerby gasps, "Wow, this Wanda Plaza is huge, but look at it, completely empty, even in the middle of the afternoon. It's unbelievable." China's economy has been sinking for years, and nowhere is that collapse more visible than in Shanghai. Once hyped as a mini Hong Kong, it has instead turned into a ghost city. Towering skyscrapers stand hollow, shopping malls echo with silence, and even highways feel deserted. What was supposed to be Xi Jinping's showcase project now looks more like a monument to failure. Not long ago, the outer districts of Shenzhen were the beating heart of the Pearl River Delta. Factories buzzed with activity, trucks rumbled through logistics hubs, and restaurants spilled over with diners. Today, that same landscape is haunting. Shuttered factories, abandoned markets, restaurants with their lights switched off, and entire apartment blocks standing unrented. Even the urban villages, once crammed with workers, feel like empty shells. At the root of it all lies the great exodus of manufacturing. As the U.S.-China trade war intensified, countless factories fled to Southeast Asia. And when factories leave, jobs disappear. With no workers, there's no spending, and without spending, businesses and communities crumble. A local blogger describes her shock. I'm inside the Excellence Times building here in Shanghai. Out of all the storefronts, barely 1/3 are rented out. The rest? Either closed before they even opened or sitting vacant. Back then, people pulled strings just to secure these shops. Now they're stuck with them. Honestly, it's terrifying. But the real pain comes from the human stories. One woman recalls how her husband was laid off with just a week's notice. Overnight, their stable life collapsed. Her small salary now barely covers her child's tuition and her parents' expenses. "We had plans for the future," she said, "but all it took was one piece of paper to destroy them." Business after business has gone under, victims of broken cash flows. Her own company has been laying off workers non-stop since last year, cutting 2/3 of its staff. Her husband, at 45, struggles to even land interviews because of his age. With a mortgage, elderly parents, and a child to raise, the family lives under crushing pressure. Even food stalls can't survive. One fast food shop owner, who has been in an urban village for 8 years, breaks down. "I used to make over 800 yuan a day. Yesterday, that dropped to just above 500. Every day it gets worse. Lunch hours used to be packed. Now only a handful of people walk in. Honestly, I don't know how much longer I can last." Real estate tells the same story. Luxury Seaview apartments near the Qianhai Ferris wheel once sold for 100,000, 120,000 yuan per square meter. Today, barely over 40,000. Owners are in disbelief at how much value has evaporated. Some gave up on Shenzhen and returned home, only to find the countryside no better. Wages are half what they were, jobs are scarce, and getting hired often depends on connections. Many simply idle away their time gambling or playing mahjong. "I thought going home would bring peace," one woman said, "but it feels like exile." For many, Shenzhen still offers higher pay and a sense of fairness. Yet the stress is crushing. It's a brutal choice: suffocate in Shenzhen or stagnate at home. And then there are heartbreaking stories like this. A woman, 25 weeks pregnant, suddenly told her entire department was being dissolved. Her boss vanished on leave to dodge the fallout. Colleagues were reassigned elsewhere, but she was left behind, facing unemployment right before maternity leave. 2 years of loyalty erased in an instant. This is the reality of Shenzhen today. Behind the glittering skyline lies a city quietly falling apart. One closed shop, one lost job, one broken family at a time. When she first received the news, the blogger admitted it hit her like a brick wall. It felt unfair, but she quickly realized one brutal truth: women often carry the heaviest burden in the workplace. She wasn't a manager or a decision-maker, just an ordinary employee. And to the company, that meant she was disposable. No hesitation, no compassion. Yet after the initial shock, she told herself she had to face reality. "Life doesn't stop because of setbacks," she said. "The only thing I can do now is protect my health, both mind and body, and not let stress crush me." But her personal story reflects something much bigger: the decline of Shenzhen itself. Think about this. China's first fourth-generation Wanda Plaza, a shopping center that caused traffic jams for miles when it opened 3 years ago, is now a hollow shell. The blogger described walking in at noon on a weekend, what should have been peak shopping hours. But instead of crowds, she found empty hallways, restaurants with only a handful of diners, and stores that once had lines out the door now barely surviving. Even family outings have turned bleak. She and her husband, both laid off, took their children back to a favorite restaurant, once buzzing with customers. This time, they were the only table. At the children's play zone, where kids used to line up for every ride, only 2 people were playing. If weekends are this empty, she wondered aloud, what do weekdays look like? Many shops in the mall have changed tenants several times in just 3 years. It feels like a mall where stores come and go like water, she said. Opening a physical business today is almost impossible. The blogger then revealed something personal. I've decided to go back home, she admitted. At 38, unemployed and running out of options, she feels like Shenzhen no longer belongs to her. This city is for the rich. If you don't have money, no matter how shiny it looks, it has nothing to do with you. I'd rather stop wasting time and make a choice now. She and her husband, both originally from Changchun, are leaving Shenzhen behind. I'll hire someone to clean every corner of this rental apartment so the next tenant can move right in. It was never ours, but we treated it like home. As they dragged their suitcases toward the train station, memories flooded back. 6 years ago, they had arrived in Shenzhen the same way, full of dreams and excitement. Now it feels like I'm walking away from the very place where my dreams began, she said. Shenzhen gave her long nights of hustle, pig trotter rice after work, countless urban village memories, and friends who also chased their ambitions under the city lights. Let me take one last look at Shenzhen, she whispered. Real estate tells another painful story. A Qianhai property launched 5 years ago at 108,000 yuan per square meter, with homeowners confidently expecting prices to double after handover. Instead, many are now reselling at a loss. Who could have imagined this? The blogger asked, staring at the view of Dananshan Mountain and the Mawan Financial Center. This is Shenzhen today, a city of contrasts. Some walk away, disillusioned and defeated. Others stay, chasing freedom and opportunity. But no one can deny that the glitter of the skyline hides a painful truth. The struggle to survive here is real, and it is shaping the fate of millions. Today, we're diving into the shocking reality of Shenzhen's office market. A new report from Savills paints a grim picture. By the first quarter of 2025, the city's supply of Grade A office space had ballooned to 11.58 million square meters. That's like covering more than 1,600 football fields in office towers. But here's the problem. Nearly 1 out of every 3 offices is sitting empty. The vacancy rate has soared to almost 30%, leaving landlords nervous and desperate. One laid-off worker shared his story. I've been in Shenzhen for 9 years. Last month my company downsized and I was suddenly jobless. After thinking it over, I chose to leave the city. But before I could go, I had one urgent task: getting rid of my apartment lease and the furniture I bought. My rent was 1,300 won a month for a small but bright room near Xixiang subway station. If I couldn't find someone to take it over, I'd lose a whole month's rent. He rushed to post the listing online. At first, plenty of people came to check it out. The location was good and the rent was cheap, but some backed out because the building didn't have an elevator, while others complained the furniture wasn't discounted enough. After endless bargaining, he gave up, sold everything for only 700 yuan, and finally felt some relief. But this isn't just about one person, it's about a city in decline. Take Qianhai, for example. Once hailed as Shenzhen's next miracle, it used to sell for 250,000 yuan per square meter, fueled by a $45 billion investment and personally promoted by Xi Jinping as China's mini Hong Kong. Now, prices have crashed to just 40,000 yuan per square meter, a 70% collapse. Economists say Qianhai's fall is tied to Hong Kong's decline. The zone was built to be a bridge between Shenzhen and Hong Kong, but after the crackdown on the anti-extradition movement, Hong Kong lost its free capital flows, rule of law, and international talent. With Hong Kong sinking, Qianhai has been dragged down too.
下了大暴雨了，看见了网里面那个在漏水，就过去看了一下，拿手机拍摄的时候，天花板就塌下来了。商场里的工作人员他们在打扫水电机是停掉，忘了告示牌。
China's so-called modern wonders of infrastructure, those grand bridges, highways, and skyscrapers are being unmasked as nothing more than glittering facades. Behind the glossy image lies a darker truth: fragile, rushed, and dangerously built projects. The latest disaster proves it once again. In the early hours of August 22nd, tragedy struck the Jiangsu Yellow River Bridge on the Sichuan-Qinghai Railway. A steel cable snapped without warning, ripping apart the structure and sending a massive section plunging into the waters below. 16 workers and supervisors were on site at that moment. By the latest count, 12 are dead and 4 remain missing. Witnesses said the deafening crash shook the valley like an earthquake. This bridge was once paraded by state media as the world's longest double-track continuous steel truss arch bridge. Today, broken steel strands and twisted scaffolding scatter the riverbank, a mocking reminder of the gulf between Beijing's propaganda and the brutal reality. Locals revealed that workers were pushed to race against impossible deadlines, forced into overnight shifts despite unsafe conditions. One survivor admitted, "We never thought the whole thing would collapse. We were just ordered to finish before the end of August. No matter what." The internet exploded with outrage. Chinese netizens called it yet another tofu-dreg project, a deadly emblem of collapsing construction standards. Questions filled the comment sections. What company made these steel cables? Were they counterfeit? How could fake substandard materials even pass inspection? Alongside the fury was unbearable grief. With one snap, entire families were shattered, lives erased, because of fake steel and shoddy work. What Beijing once promoted as a showcase of China's engineering strength now lies in ruins, a grim warning of the rot behind the so-called infrastructure miracle. But this bridge collapse is just one chapter in a long list of tragedies that expose the fragility of China's construction boom. On August 16th, a sudden flash flood tore through Dongwugai Valley in Inner Mongolia, trapping 13 campers from 5 families. 10 never returned home, 2 remain missing, and only 1 survived. Just a day earlier, during the Changkun Beer Festival in Sichuan, a steel truss came crashing down. Officials reported only 2 deaths and 3 injuries, but locals openly accused authorities of covering up the true scale of the disaster, brushing it off as bad weather. On August 6th, in Xinjiang's Xiata Scenic area, another cable snapped on a suspension bridge, tipping the deck and hurling 29 tourists into chaos. 5 lost their lives, and more than 20 were badly injured. Shockingly, the same site had suffered a similar incident only weeks before, yet promises of safety checks were nothing but empty words. July brought more devastation across North China. Torrential floods in Beijing alone claimed at least 44 lives. Landslides in Hebei and Shangshi piled on more deaths. Authorities admitted to 75 casualties, but few trust those numbers, suspecting far higher losses. Even as August rolled on, the disasters kept coming. In Jiangsu province, relentless rains unleashed violent floods, officially leaving 10 dead and 33 missing. But volunteers on the ground reported thousands of homes buried, with real casualties possibly reaching into the thousands. Numbers that will never appear in state-controlled reports. Behind every collapsed bridge, every broken cable, every drowned village, lies the same haunting truth. China's infrastructure miracles are cracking apart, and the CCP's obsession with appearances and its constant cover-ups are costing ordinary people their lives. On June 26, 2025, Quezhou Railway Station in Zhejiang, once praised as a jewel of China's high-speed rail, turned into a nightmare. At noon, under clear skies with no storm in sight, part of the station's ceiling suddenly gave way. In seconds, torrents of water gushed down from above, drenching passengers and flooding the platform. Officials offered no explanation. There was no investigation, no press conference, only silence. Within hours, the site was sealed off, scrubbed clean, and scrubbed from the internet. State media switched topics as if nothing had happened. Search terms like Quezhou ceiling collapse vanished overnight. The cover-up was swift, calculated, and chillingly familiar. But China barely had time to bury the story. Just 12 days later, disaster repeated itself, this time in Chongqing. On July 8th at 4:30 p.m., authorities issued a heavy rain warning. 2 hours later, inside Shangshi Paradise Walk Mall, the ceiling burst open. Shoppers screamed and ran as dark, debris-filled water surged through the hallways like a broken dam. Some feared it was mixed with sewage. Two cities, two different weather conditions. Yet both buildings crumbled in the same way. The question hanging over everyone's mind, if sponge cities were built to stop this, why are ceilings still crashing down? These back-to-back collapses, Kuzhou in dry weather and Chongqing in a downpour, expose a sobering reality. Billions were poured into the 2015 Sponge City program, a flagship project meant to prevent urban flooding by using advanced drainage and water-absorbing surfaces. Yet on the ground, the rollout was sloppy, underfunded, and often reduced to cosmetic gestures, planting grass on rooftops while ignoring the real dangers below. If sponge cities truly worked, then why did Chengdu East Railway Station, another crown jewel, suffer its own failure on July 3rd? After just a brief summer rain, the ceiling buckled and water spilled across the platforms. Engineers pointed fingers at overloaded drainage, but that excuse only deepened public outrage. A sponge city isn't supposed to redirect water through the roof. It's supposed to stop disasters like this entirely. Tofu-dreg has become more than an insult. It's a symbol of a nationwide system built on shortcuts, cheap materials, falsified inspections, and reckless speed prioritized over safety. What once referred to a single crumbling school or bridge now describes an entire pattern. Beneath polished surfaces lie brittle steel, weak concrete, and underpaid labor. Each corner cut saves money today, but costs lives tomorrow. This isn't about one train station or one shopping mall. It's about trust. Trust shattered every time another ceiling falls, every time officials cover up instead of coming clean. Infrastructure failures are no longer rare accidents. They're symptoms of a system cracking under its own lies. And the problem runs deeper than falling ceilings. On the very same day Kuzhou's station collapsed, another chilling scene surfaced more than 1,300 kilometers away in Beihai, Guangxi. At the Guyuan City Phase 2 housing project, a whistleblower known as Mr. G filmed a worker bending a steel rebar with his bare hands until it snapped like dry twigs. According to building codes, that steel should flex and recover under pressure. Instead, half the samples broke instantly. The so-called certified steel had defects hiding in plain sight. Mr. G said grimly, "We've seen this before." Labs still stamped it as qualified. On paper, it passed. In reality, it was a death trap. After releasing the footage, he faced threats and retaliation. But the video told the truth. This wasn't engineering, it was theater, an illusion of safety built on fake steel and falsified reports. Days later in Qingdao's Tongdao Bay, another family's nightmare came to life. In the middle of the night, the ceiling of a living room caved in. A resident filmed the aftermath. Rebar so corroded it had swelled and cracked the concrete from the inside. Rusted steel bars and chunks of plaster littered the floor. "This is what they call reinforcement?" he shouted. "It's tofu dregs. If we had been here when it fell, we'd be dead." Behind each collapse is a haunting truth. China's grand construction boom is crumbling from within. What was built as a symbol of progress is turning into a graveyard of illusions. These disasters aren't isolated accidents. They're warning flares exploding from the wreckage of a system obsessed with speed, spectacle, and silence. What was once mocked as tofu-dreg construction has now spread like an epidemic. It's no longer rare, it's becoming the default. Behind gleaming train stations clad in marble and high-rises wrapped in glass lurk the same rot. Impossible deadlines, ruthless cost-cutting, and corruption so deep it flows from the top down through every rung of the ladder. Transparency International sounded the alarm back in 2015. Their survey found that more than 1 in 3 Chinese companies openly admitted to bribing officials, most often to secure lucrative construction contracts. Xi Jinping's so-called anti-corruption drive, launched in 2013, promised a clean house. But experts argue it was more about consolidating power and crushing rivals than fixing the disease. Even insiders whisper the truth. A university student named Zinu, whose uncle runs a construction firm, told NPR that swapping quality materials for cheap substitutes isn't a scandal. It's just business as usual. In her words, corruption is automatic. You don't even think about it.
Every electric car owner, think twice before plugging in. What should power your car could instead end your life. Just days ago, a charging station in Sichuan became a fireball. Flames shot skyward, thick smoke spread for miles, and panicked drivers scrambled to drag their cars away. Some nearly losing their lives in the chaos. No one can say for sure whether it was the charger or the battery that failed. But one thing is crystal clear. In summer heat, an EV can turn into a rolling bomb. Once a lithium battery ignites, you have seconds before it erupts into an uncontrollable inferno. And these aren't rare accidents. On July 7th, in Guizhou, another EV suddenly burst into flames on the roadside. Within minutes, nothing was left but a burned-out shell. Firefighters rushed to the scene, but they could only watch the wreck smolder. Yet for many EV owners, the nightmare doesn't end with fire. It's the daily grind that slowly breaks you. One frustrated driver shared his ordeal. He bought a BYD Seagull for over 70,000 yuan, hoping for convenience. Instead, a simple family trip became a freezing 3-day disaster. A journey from Henan to Shandong, normally 1 day, dragged on with 5 charging stops and non-stop anxiety. In minus 10 degrees Celsius weather, he didn't dare switch on the heater, terrified the battery would drain before the next charging station. His words cut deep. "I didn't buy a car. I bought stress." So, are electric cars really the future, or just an expensive illusion? Here's the raw truth the glossy ads won't tell you. Safety first. Most EVs still rely on liquid lithium batteries, which are highly flammable. A minor crash could trigger a short circuit and a deadly fire. Sure, gas cars can burn too, but the risk is far lower. Range is another myth. On paper, EVs claim impressive mileage, but cold weather and highways expose the lie. While gas-powered cars cruise effortlessly, EV owners wait in endless queues, watching their battery bars vanish. And resale value? Practically worthless. A 10-year-old gas car still has buyers, but try selling a 5-year-old EV. Most dealerships won't even look at it. Manufacturers promise lifetime warranties while hemorrhaging money. The question is, how long can they keep the promise alive? Owning an EV today often feels like stepping into a carefully crafted trap. Don't believe it? Take one on a road trip and you'll understand. One friend of mine made that mistake. He drove his EV on a summer highway and got trapped in a traffic jam for nearly 5 hours under blistering heat. With his battery draining fast, he couldn't risk the AC. Instead, he roasted in 38 degrees Celsius heat, windows down, sweat pouring, while gas car drivers around him relaxed in cool comfort. By the time he got home, he said it felt less like a trip and more like punishment. And fire or range anxiety isn't even the scariest part. A darker danger is rising. Battery leaks that can poison you without warning. Not long ago, a woman collapsed less than half a minute after stepping into her EV. Investigators later revealed the battery had leaked toxic gases. On July 8th in Jiangsu, Mr. Zhou experienced the same horror. He noticed a foul odor near his car, assumed it was the air conditioner, but the moment he sat inside, he began choking. He barely escaped before passing out. Doctors confirmed he had been poisoned. The source, once again, a leaking battery. Even worse, his brother, who drove him to the hospital, began vomiting from the lingering fumes. The carmaker later admitted that lithium batteries can emit toxic smells when heated past 300 degrees Celsius. But Mr. Zhou is still waiting for answers. The shocking incident lit up social media with fear and outrage. Many car fans believe the strange odor was hydrogen sulfide, the same deadly gas that smells like rotten eggs. One chilling comment went viral. "This isn't just a car problem. It's like releasing a biological weapon." And sadly, this is far from an isolated nightmare. Across China, reports of EVs bursting into flames have skyrocketed, especially during the sweltering summer months of June, July, and August. It's not just China. An international disaster recently highlighted the global risk. A massive cargo ship named Morning Midas, loaded with over 3,000 cars from China bound for Mexico, caught fire off the coast of Alaska's Aleutian Islands. Among them were 65 full EVs and nearly 700 hybrids. The ship had departed Yantai on May 26th, destined to arrive in Mexico by June 15th. But disaster struck on June 3rd when smoke suddenly poured from the deck holding the EVs. The fire spread like wildfire. Crew members fought desperately but eventually had no choice but to abandon ship. Thankfully, all 22 crew survived, but the vessel drifted helplessly in the North Pacific for weeks before finally sinking to the ocean floor. Investigators haven't released the official cause, but many experts point to lithium batteries as the most likely culprit. Bloomberg even cited an Allianz report warning that lithium batteries pose catastrophic risks when thousands are shipped together. Back in China, EV fire headlines just keep coming. In Nanchang, a new energy vehicle suddenly erupted in flames on a busy road right next to the Jiangsu Provincial Museum. The cause remains a mystery. Meanwhile, ordinary drivers are reaching their breaking point. A blogger named Yang shared his bitter regret after owning an EV for less than 2 years. At first, he was swept away by flashy ads and smooth-talking sales reps, but the honeymoon ended quickly. "Whatever happiness I felt when buying the car," he said, "is nothing compared to the regret I feel now." Here's what he learned the hard way. Before buying, he thought he'd save a fortune on fuel. Sure, gas money went down, but then came the high maintenance fees. Insurance for EVs is around 30% higher than gas cars. Repairs? Even worse. Parts are expensive, and most roadside garages refuse to touch EVs. That means you're stuck at 4S shops where every visit feels like being sliced up on the butcher's block. And the range? A complete illusion. The numbers shown at purchase are mostly lab results. In real driving conditions, they shrink dramatically, especially in freezing winters. Every trip becomes a game of survival, with constant mileage anxiety. Turning on the heater? Forget it, you'll drain the battery before reaching the next charger. Over time, things only get worse. After a few years, batteries degrade, forcing more frequent charging. And charging itself is painfully slow. Even with fast charging, you're waiting an hour. Normal charging? 3 to 5 hours. Compare that to a gas car. Refueling takes minutes. With an EV, every road trip comes with a pounding headache. His nightmare peaked during last year's Chinese New Year. Driving to Beijing in the dead of winter, he turned on the heater briefly, and the battery plummeted. With no station nearby, his family shivered inside the car. When he finally found a charger, the line stretched endlessly. It took 6 hours before he could even plug in. Other travelers had already eaten dinner and gone to bed while he was still waiting in the cold. Finally, he gave up. Last month, he sold the EV and switched back to a gas-powered car. His warning was blunt. After 6 years, the shrinking range made the car nearly useless, and replacing the battery cost almost as much as buying a brand-new vehicle. And the problems don't stop there. In Suzhou, where summer temperatures soared above 38 degrees Celsius, data showed EVs losing up to 31% of their range in extreme heat. People used to think EVs only struggled in winter. Now we know they suffer in summer, too. One driver shared a shocking discovery. In the morning, his car showed a 220-kilometer range. By evening, after sitting idle all day, it had dropped to 176 kilometers, nearly 50 kilometers gone without driving a single mile. Why? He had turned on the AC 5 or 6 times just to keep the cabin cool, each session lasting 10 to 20 minutes. By nightfall, his EV had lost nearly 50 kilometers of range just from staying parked. If this is the future of driving, then it looks more like a ticking time bomb than a revolution.
The streets are no longer alive with crowds. They are filled with the unemployed, drowning in debt. Hospitals are packed with stroke and heart attack patients. What's going on? Do you realize how terrifying this economy has become? I don't even dare to call my friends or relatives anymore. Every conversation is like opening a floodgate of despair. I thought my life was miserable enough, but their stories are worse, more hopeless, more suffocating. The more we talk, the heavier the darkness becomes. Look around. Businesses are shutting down everywhere. Entire industries collapsing. Something that sold for 5 yuan just days ago now goes for 3.5. Linyi, once the proud logistics capital of China, has turned into a ghost town. Trucks that once carried fortunes now sit idle, and job seekers like me send out resumes that are never even opened. Savings are gone, and many of us don't even dare to go home for the new year. Migrant workers suffer too. They labor all year, yet when school starts, they can't send a single penny to their children. The police show up, but nothing changes. Big hotels are forced to sell braised meat on the streets. Apartments stand empty as people pack up and leave. Even universities with tens of thousands of students are drowning in billions of yuan in debt, their accounts frozen by courts. Restaurants are empty. Shopping malls echo with silence. Street markets vanish. Houses don't sell, and cars can't find buyers no matter how cheap. From textile mills to plating factories, every boss repeats the same words. This is the worst year for business in decades. Shanghai tells the same story. I spoke to a man unemployed for more than 4 months, unable to find work. Once, people earned 80,000 to 100,000 yuan a month in high-paying industries. Now they beg for 20,000 or even 10,000. A Didi driver from Hunan told me he barely survives, drowning in rent, expenses, and fines. For ordinary people, survival itself has become the only dream. Factories are collapsing, one after another. Machines worth millions sit idle, gathering dust. Foreign investors pull out, and Chinese manufacturing is left abandoned. Even fresh graduates with degrees in accounting can't find jobs that pay 3,000 yuan. Families spend hundreds of thousands on education, only to see their children return to selling goods on the street. This is the reality. 9 out of 10 jobs have no future. Nearly 500 million people are lying flat, drifting through life with no hope. Experts warn of unrest, and whispers of rebellion spread through the streets. This is not a slowdown. This is collapse, and it is swallowing an entire generation. And if there really is a future, it's no longer for ordinary people like us. These days, just finding a job that pays on time is already considered a blessing. First, you fight to survive, to keep your rice bowl before even daring to think about change. The e-commerce industry is collapsing, and I'm about to lose my job again. I came in today. Let me show you how miserable things are. Look at this, a giant office, pitch black, not a single person left. Just 2 weeks ago, this place was bustling. Every day, someone helped me set up the live stream, turn on the lights, boot up the computer. Now I do everything myself because the company has gone bankrupt. Everyone else was laid off. Only I remain. This is the reality of China's economy, tragic beyond words. Step outside and the scene is just as grim. At 7:30 p.m., Lingi Restaurant is still hawking food at roadside stalls. At 7:32, Pinghengzhou Restaurant is doing the same. By 7:35, even Ronghua Hotel has joined in. Its grand halls dark, staff reduced to street vendors. My God, how bad must things be if a hotel is forced to sell food like this? Tourism isn't spared either. Friends in Jiangsu tell me the whole scenic area feels like the off-season, even during peak months. Tianmen Mountain, the pride of Jiangsu, is practically empty, even with free admission for seniors and children. Over by Jiangsu Lake, rows of idle tourist buses sit useless. No matter how hard they try, operators can't make a single yuan. China's economy is sliding into darkness. Entire industries are suffocating. Brick and mortar stores close one after another. Waves of unemployment wash thousands into the streets. Mr. Zhao, a resident of Shenyang, says train station squares in major cities are now filled with young people sleeping rough. Across Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, videos show graduates huddled under bridges, in parks, at bus stations. Desperate, abandoned, invisible. The cries of misery echo across the nation.